All right, so Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. I think I pronounced that right, but a lot of people are saying that should be the main event. And you know what? I agree. I think it's the biggest what if fight, the most exciting matchup on the card. Mackenzie Dern versus Rebos 2 could also be a what if because when they first met, I'm pretty sure it was Mackenzie Dern who was coming off of a layoff after her pregnancy. And now that she's back at full health, what's going to happen? It did go the distance. Mackenzie Dern did tough it out. She didn't look too bad despite the health circumstances she was facing because pregnancy does affect someone like that. So we'll see where it goes. Maybe Mackenzie Dern might win, but she has been on the decline where I feel like Rebos has kind of been a little more consistent and just taking more fights. Now, she's fallen short, obviously, against Rose Namajunas and other of the top talent in both strawweight and flyweight. But it's a perfect matchup where we see them in the rankings, and it's just it's a good fight right now for both of these people in their career, running it back. But also, the one argument I could say on why they should make Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Rebos the main event is that, Roman Kopylov doesn't seem like he's ready to go 5 rounds. I just see that he gets tired a lot. That kind of tends to be his big weakness when I look at his game. Obviously, a lot of potential for talent. Russians come into the UFC all the time, and most of them really succeed. Now, some of them do fall short, but it's very not as often than it actually happens, but it goes down, and Roman is one of those instances right now where it's like, okay, what's apparently going to happen? How is this going to go, and where are we going to go with this one? But Chris Curtis definitely has the better striking, and he could defend takedowns. Roman is more of a wrestler. He's shown he does have a lot of TKOs and everything like that, but I feel like his last fight specifically, he did seem like, okay, now I'm invincible in this realm. I feel invincible once more because I lost to Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez just keeps climbing up. So I think that it might actually just be a mental thing for Roman. He is more of a grappler, but he does manage to get a lot of KOs. I mean, he does really awesome wrestling. But, sometimes, if he squares up his hands, I think he could be way more deadly and then maybe think about running it back with Anthony Hernandez. But if he has any sort of mental blockages versus Chris Curtis is going to exploit that, and Chris Curtis is going to get an upset. So I do still have Chris Curtis as an underdog. Only reason I'm saying this is because Chris Curtis, is win some, lose some. When him and Calvin Gastelum fought, Calvin Gastelum was really desperate for a win and was obviously on the later end of his career. And, Chris Curtis even fell up short slightly to that. So seeing where both of these guys are, if you want to use that as a baseline, I just feel like Chris Curtis is kind of past his prime and the title days are up for him. And he's just kind of running it out. But his last fight against Brendan Allen, it didn't go really well in his way. He lost that decision. It went the distance, but still, not enough to justify, any sort of resurgence where Roman needs a big name win where he could really catapult himself back up. Now, obviously, Roman's coming off of a win, but he needs that win. I think Chris Curtis is that perfectly timed person to go after and kind of pick on at this point. But who knows? Maybe Roman might get in his head again and kind of regress. Like, it kind of seemed like something mentally wasn't there in his last fight. And he didn't perform to the best of his ability against the guy who he was fighting. However, he could switch it on, but it's all going to be about Roman's mental game and where he goes with this. But if not, then I think Chris Curtis might actually pull an upset, which, you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing that either because Chris Curtis is, honestly, he doesn't cause a whole lot of controversy for UFC standards. He had a really close relationship with Sean Strickland, and those guys kind of went a different way, mainly because I'm guessing Sean Strickland got more publicity and started hanging out with cooler people than Chris and left Chris kind of in the dust at this point. But it's all what it is. But honestly, I would like to see that upset just for Chris because, to be abandoned by your boy like that must be pretty harsh. I don't know what the update on that situation was, but last time I checked, they weren't on the best of terms. But that's honestly where I feel like this fight is. It just kind of lies with Roman's mental game, and who knows, maybe Roman might be susceptible to a shot, even if his mental game is all on there, and Chris Curtis gets a really lucky hit, but a guy can only hope. But that's all I got to say. see you guys on the next one. And I think that kind of wraps it up. But you know what I got to say? I'm glad that we are back with UFC finally on Saturdays. And let's go. Peace out.